is here. Finally, we got to have another episode of Altitude Trust podcast. We been silent for a while, but it's okay. A lot of things ongoing, and it's a special podcast. It's a special episode. This one, and I'm so happy that I managed to get this man on camera and on speaker. So, hi Steve, how are you?
Hey Franco, good mate, good. It's been a little bit tricky, right? Getting together like this, for one thing or another. Hunting, family. I think last week I was drinking. Is that right? So yeah, it's good, mate. It's good. It's good to see you first. It's good to chat to you again.
I'm so excited. So let's introduce Steve, and then the best way is Steve is gonna say, who is Steve?
So yeah, I'm Steve Thompson. I work with a group of outfitters called South Ayrshire Stalking. We're based out of southwest Scotland, just on the coast there, not too far from Glasgow. I guess most of your sort of listeners probably know of Glasgow. South of Glasgow and north of the English border. So it's a nice sort of wooded area in the Galloway Forest there. So we that's where we're based, Franco. What we do is sort of threefold, really. We're deer managers, so we look after plantations and land for forest owners and make sure that we're managing the deer on their behalf, keeping them to sort of sustainable, safe levels. The idea there is to sort of protect the assets of the forest, the young plantations and what have you. So that's sort of kind of like our base business. But the fun bit is the other bits and pieces that we do. We guide out clients, which is always fantastic. That's the best part of the job, really. We take a lot of people that are new to the sport as well. Some people have never shot a rifle before, never seen a deer before. So train them how to do that, which is always fantastic. That's the best thing. That if you can get somebody their first deer, that's the best thing. And we do a lot of training as well. I'm not sure in New Zealand whether you have sort of hunting qualifications. I know in Denmark there's a hunting license and things like that, but we deliver that sort of training to people from all over. A lot of people in the UK. Before COVID, a lot of people internationally as well. So that's me, and that's kind of what we do. And we're bloody lucky to be able to do it, to be honest with you, mate. It's nice. It's really cool. Yeah.
So you get to experience a lot of different feelings, because you're saying that you have like people from the first year, people a little bit more experience also. So you get to grab all the feelings that come out from people, and those moments are like really the pure ones. Just you can't make it up. It's when it's happening, right?
Yeah, man. It's exactly that. It kind of sort of takes you back when you started to first do it and you first had success, or you first sort of, I don't know, achieved whatever you wanted to achieve in your particular hunting sort of career. You've done that. It's in the past. Yeah, you remember it, and yeah, it's still cool. It's still a cool memory, but the feelings may be gone. But when you do it with somebody else afresh, it just boom, it all comes back again. It's a privilege, really, mate. Actually, it's a real privilege to be able to do that with someone, and try to pass on what little knowledge me and the guys have sort of accumulated over the years. There's guys out there that know 50 times as much as me, for sure. But it's really cool to try and pass on a little bit. So yeah, it's proper pure. It's good. It's good stuff, man.
Wow, it's amazing how you're talking about that. It makes me feel like, I want to just call you and come straight to Scotland to experience something like that. It's just like you're talking in a way that is like so fresh for you, even if you have done so many times.
Yeah, we're lucky, man. We are dead lucky that we can do what we do. There's people that would give the right arm to do it. And in the UK, it can be quite tricky. Accessibility wise, there's a lot of people in this country. Need enough 70 million, I think. Very small country.
Yeah.
So it can be a little bit difficult to find your own piece of ground to hunt. There's We don't have public land like we do you do in the States or in New Zealand, for instance. So it can be a little bit tricky, but we try to give people a route in, to learn without costing them an arm and a leg. Do you know what I mean? So you don't need to be a rich guy or girl to do that, thankfully.
Yeah. So now, just for our listeners, the idea of this podcast actually came up when me and Steve were chatting, and then he published on Instagram. You guys are going to have the link of his Instagram account profile, so you can check all his galleries. It's interesting hunting. And so Steve posted something about taking simple blood, taking data, checking the situation in the field about something interesting that Steve is going to explain that. So I was like, wow, that's super interesting, because like, it's not a common thing. It's not something that we're used to see, and especially among the hunting community. So that's why I say, Steve, we have to talk we have to talk about that. So you remember that post, right?
Yeah, I do. So it's an interesting one. You're right. It's a bit sort of a bit left field, bit out there. It's not a real sexy subject as such. Do you know what I mean? It's not long range shooting. It's not trophy, stag hunting. This is about ticks, little ticks, specifically sort of ticks that are found on deer and in deer habitats. So let me give you a little bit of background on these on this little problem. So there's a virus that's kicking around sort of the Central Asia, Central European areas of the world. But it's a family of viruses actually, and it infects ticks, right? This virus, once the tick bites you, passes into the human body. This virus can cause encephalitis, which is a pretty, it's something you don't want to get, basically. Most cases are asymptomatic. In some cases, you'll get like flu-y type symptoms, aches, pains, and that's the majority of what happens. Still unpleasant, but you're in bed for a while, you recover. But in some cases, it gets a bit more serious. So those aches and pains and flu-type symptoms start to develop into something very much more significant. It creates a disease that attacks the central nervous system. So you can start to see things like personality changes. In my case, that's not necessarily wouldn't be a bad thing, but it can develop into meningitis. It can sort of cause cognitive dysfunction, and these sort of things can last years. In some cases, it progresses to a fatal disease, so you die. So it's bad news. You don't want to get it. And from our perspective in the UK, it hasn't been really a problem because it hasn't been there. But what we've started to see is that disease has started to move westward, and the reported cases have started to go up through the roof. So I think the cases have something like 400% increase in the last sort of 20 years, something like that, right? Yeah. And a real spike sort of recently. They reckon it's to do with climate change, Franco. So the ticks, like that sort of wetter summers, less harsh winter, because the winter kills a lot of them off. So they think that's why it's moving towards the west. So there's no treatment for it. There's a vaccine you can get, which is a bit like that. So it's bad news, mate. You don't want to get it. And because it's moving west like this, it's kind of come to the attention of the British authorities. There's a public body which is called Public Health England. I'm sure you've got something similar in New Zealand, which sort of tracks emerging threats, foreign diseases, health issues, and it's concerned about this because we're such a highly densely populated country. If this thing sort of gets a foothold, we get a lot of people walking in quite small areas. It could be a concern. So Public Health England wanted to understand, firstly, is it present in the UK? Secondly, if it is, what's its distribution? What's its density distribution? And I think probably what's important is, how is that changing over time? Do you know what I mean? So that's what they wanted to understand. But here's the thing. Here's the clever thing, in my opinion, on in what they did. I thought they were really smart. So in order to get that information, all over the country, different parts of the countryside, a hell of a lot of data that they need, a hell of a lot of data over time, and they don't have the resources for that. So they worked it out, dead smart. Where can we find a lot of ticks? We can find them on deer. How can we find deer? Go and speak to the hunters, right? Perfect, absolutely. So I thought it was really smart. So what they did, they reached out to the hunting community via individuals and by some of our sort of shooting organisations, such as Basque and people like that, and asked us to get involved to help collect ticks and blood sample from the deer. What they did, they sent out a wee pack. I don't know if I can show you this. Can I share my screen without knocking you off?
I think, there's a way. Or anyway, we're gonna put
Anyway,
you're gonna put on the screen. You're gonna give me the file, and we're gonna put it.
Yeah, cool.
On
so what they sent out. You registered to undertake this survey for the health organisation, this tick-borne disease survey, and they sent out each individual hunter a pack, and in that pack was some rubber gloves, a tick remover, a little plastic vial with to put the tick in, and like a plastic sort of syringe. It's a sort of self-sealing syringe, and a piece of paper where you record where you took your sample from. So it's cool, right? You put that in your pack. You go out hunting, and with a bit of luck, you shoot a deer. Great, happy days. You go up to that deer, and the first thing you do, obviously, you bleed it out. You check it's dead and make sure everything's good, make everything safe. You check that deer for its general condition, and generally speaking, around up in Scotland especially, you'll generally find 1 or 2 ticks on a deer, sometimes loads. Take the tick off, put it in the sealed tube. You take the syringe, and if you bled the deer, we generally in the UK we bleed the deer out to lower the body temperature quite quick. I don't know if it's common practice there. Put that syringe in the deer, suck the blood out, and it seals. Put that in a bag, and then you create a record or for some details on that particular deer. So it would be things like the sex, species, age, exact location if you got it. So maybe if you can put a grid reference down, we put that down, or a general location. General health of the deer, all that sort of thing. Send it back to the laboratories in Public Health England. And what they do is they take that tick, they take that blood, and they will analyse it for the virus. Well, that's not true. Strictly speaking, they're analysing it for the antibodies for the virus. That's what they look for. And that goes into their information system, their database, and it produces over time basically a what do we call it? A geographic information system, GIS, of the hotspots of this virus, where we're finding it, how it's spreading over time. So you can do it, month by month by month, and you can see these hotspots growing, or in some places shrinking. And it's giving them all the information they need to plan for the future. Do you know what I mean? To understand how this disease is evolving and changing. They also do sort of DNA profiling of the particular virus and stuff like that to see how it's mutating. But the cool thing is, for me, is how they had a problem, how they understood it really clearly. We don't have the resources to do this, but we know a community out there that can do the job properly, that can get out there. And hey, let's face it, Franco, we go the stupid places as well. We go the places that no idiot would go to, right? We go over that ravine, or we go down into that valley that if you weren't a hunter, you wouldn't go anywhere near that. So I thought that was really cool and really clever and practical. And that partnership's sort of starting to pay off, because obviously the government, they're getting that information, but the hunters are getting that information as well. Do you know what I mean? So it's a sort of, it's a benefit for everyone. Forest workers are benefiting from the info, campers, you know, people that go mountain biking, all that sort of, all those sort of people. There's a much wider benefit to this than just specific hunters or, you know, or the government. It's a real good partnership. So we're dead pleased to be doing it. I mean, I know a lot, we're not just the only ones who do it. A lot of people are doing it out there across the UK. The organisations are still backing it, and I think it's just been a really positive thing, mate. And it's something that I've not heard of before. Certainly something I think that's got legs and got value, and hopefully it'll continue again, man, in maybe a different guise. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Really cool.
That's the problem of those diseases that have this kind of asymptomatic cases, that you don't know how it's going, how it's evolving, because some guys are just like, you know, they don't make that sound, you know.
Yeah.
They don't show up, so that they have the disease. But what I really I was so let's say in love with your post is that, like, I always, it's recently, but like probably last 2 years, that I was thinking about these things nonstop. That, you know, you have the public opinion and say that we have this kind of pressure, especially in some or European countries, about, like, you know, hunters are not seen really well, you know. Public opinion is always point the fingers to the hunters, to us, that, you know, we are killing animals, and there is even sometimes say that there is this impact to the environment. But look at this example of yours. Is hunters can really represent some crucial part into the environment management. So look at even this example about taking biological data from the field, in the field, how much information can bring to the community. I'm not just saying to the hunting community, to the whole community. And then you can map, because you said that you're going to give the location. So you, with your data, all the hunters, they can really access to, like, you know, mapping the land and see where are the hotspot, where he's going. And then you can, if you continue with the studies, like you see, you can study the trend of the evolution of this disease. And okay, for the hunters, it's really interesting, because you are the guys exposed to that problem. You know, when you are on the dead deer, you start to, you know, manipulate the carcass, and that's the moment where the ticks, like, say, oh, look at this, a young fellow or old fellow, whatever it is like,
man,
here on the spot, let's jump on
man.
it. And then those ticks, like, everyone knows how, like, how unbelievable, like, those little things that you don't feel anything, and you go back home, wow, there's one little one, like, just like walking, do a
Mate,
trekking on
everywhere.
your mountain. And so it's dangerous. I mean, this Steve, like, mentioned this encephalitis, but there are a lot of other diseases that comes with the ticks. And then I have a lot of cases in France of people that actually brought animal with this kind of problem, and there was, like, the Lyme disease was most of the cases. But there is a lot of people that got this disease, and it was so difficult to get into diagnostic, because it's, as you said, it's like sometimes you have, like, little symptoms, sometimes it's like a little bit more severe, sometimes you're carrying the disease for a long time, and then when it's gonna show up, it's a little bit too late.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely.
So it's
you're right,
really
Franco.
important.
So, you know, you bang on there, man. So, you know, it's about information, isn't it? All of this, about getting the right information as much as we can get, and we can make the best informed decisions. Do you know what I mean? So it isn't just tick borne encephalitis. It's like you said, it's Lyme disease, and a whole spectrum of other diseases out there. And it's an opportunity. It's an opportunity for the hunting community to get involved. in future, and it's a good news story. Let's put it that way, isn't it? It's good PR
Yeah,
as well. Do you know what I mean? And God knows
yeah,
we need a bit of that.
yeah. And then in this way, this is what I really, really feel strong about it, is that if we start to see that hunters actually are the people that spend most of the time in the outdoors, and they spend like probably all along the years, they're not just gonna, I mean, I hope that hunters not just like, oh, I'm gonna get out when it's like hunting season, and then the rest of the day just like get a beer and whatever it is, just stay at fucking home, and that's it, and waiting for hunting season to open again. But no, I mean, the really passionate people are out there to understand what is happening, even just like following a mob of deers because they want to understand what is going to happen. That allows to these people to understand how these animals are moving, what is happening to the wildlife and population, and then how they're going to interact with the environment. So the hunters' role completely change if we see the hunters in this way. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely, man. So you're right. I mean, hunters, you're back in the day, we were synonymous with, land management, stewardship of the land, all that good stuff. I don't know what's happened. There's smarter people than me try to explain it, but you're right. I think maybe the urbanization of society, that disconnect between humans and the land, certainly in the UK, it's probably less so in other parts of the world. But yeah, that's kind of swung, the pendulum swung far too far. It is an opportunity, I think, Franco, to try to redress that a little bit and show our value, show the good side of things, and try to, like I said, try to sort of provide a good news, a good, positive, balanced view of what we do. We're not bloodthirsty killers. We do a job. We do it with respect. It's not all, yeah,
Yeah,
there's a lot of sadness, a lot of emotion there.
Mm.
For me, go through the whole cycle of emotions when I hunt. If I'm successful, if I'm not, it's a different set of emotions. I'm usually pissed off.
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean?
exactly.
But
Yeah,
for
definitely.
sure, mate. I think it's something that maybe, well, certainly does need to look at and see what we can do with this going forward, mate. See if it's if it's an opportunity we can exploit. You know what I mean? Definitely.
And then also, yeah, I think that in the future, the virus is going to be probably one of the most difficult enemies that humanity has to face. Look at what happened with the COVID, and then that's a lot of viruses that trying to evolve in a way they just have to use a parasite, a vehicle, so they can be more powerful. Because like, look at this virus, it's gonna get into the ticks, and ticks is gonna crawl everywhere and stuff. Ticks is gonna be on deers, and deers moves. So look
For
look how
sure.
much power give to the virus, the fact that it's like there is a vehicle and there is a host, and then it can spread to wildlife, it can spread to humans. So that's interesting, but at the same time it's scary because you never know how it's going to be in like probably 5 years, 10 years.
Oh
And
man,
climate
you don't.
change,
It's what's
climate
driving it, I
change.
think,
Yeah.
for sure. Absolutely.
And
These things are reacting faster than we are, and
yeah,
things like viruses, because they've been around here longer than us. The bright virus is probably one of the first things that ever lived or was evolved. Do you know what I mean?
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
been doing its thing much longer than us, and it'll be doing its thing long after we've gone, I would imagine. But yeah, we're kind of on the back foot a little bit, man. The world's changing. The little viruses and the diseases, they're changing faster than we're learning. Do you know what I mean?
yeah,
And I guess that's
yeah,
where we need to be.
yeah,
We need to be ahead of the game. Do
exactly.
you get me?
Yeah, like anticipate what it could be like when it's gonna explode. Probably it's gonna be too late.
Yeah.
It's the best always the prevention, especially in health. I have a question for you. It's
Yeah,
when
man, sure.
you mentioned that on the spot you take all the data from the deer, and actually
Mhm.
what kind of species you have? Red deer, you
Yeah,
mostly is red
got
deer, right?
red deer, roe deer, fallow, sika, muntjac, and Chinese water deer as well. So six main sort of species really.
Yeah, nice population there.
Yeah, man.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Hey, the cool thing is, Franco, is that the seasons overlap, so we never have a season
Oh,
where there's no we never have a season where we can't hunt, which is
you
cool.
can. You're saying you never get bored. That's it.
Yeah,
So,
man.
but yeah, the question was like you taking all these data, and then what do you think about, because you mentioned that taking the age of the deer, right?
The age of the deer.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
what do you think about, like, if we talk about a little bit in general? So, you thinking of hunters at that level of knowledge of wildlife today, how you will say how good it is? Because I always think this is another strong feeling that I have, and this is when I'm not drunk. So, um, it's like we spend a lot of time with gear, sophisticated knowledge. We know all the ballistic. We know anything about layers. That's the
Yeah,
best
man.
gear to go out there, and we talk for ages. But I have the impression that if you compare to how much we talk about wildlife biology, for example, there is a huge gap.
Yeah. Yeah.
So in this way, I'm saying that how many hunters actually can really estimate the age in the field? I'm not just talking about Scotland, but what do you think in general? Because as you mentioned, some countries, for example, they don't really have a hunting license formation.
Hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
there's nothing. So you just have to apply. You probably, if you're gonna go with a rifle, you need to get the license. But about the hunting preparation, the hunting kind of issues that you're gonna get out there. We are mentioning something that is its zoonosis. If you don't have any clue, you're gonna get out there, you don't even know that you can get something that you turn your brain like crazy, right?
That's right, man. And I think it's a really good question, mate. And it's I guess it's about sort of education and information, and we're making you're best able to make a decision on when you're educated. Accurate aging the deer. I think in the UK, most stalkers would be able to say, right, that's a calf, juvenile, adult. Most would do that, right? You'd hope so, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Getting into more detail than that, I think it really depends on the level of your experience and your sort of education. Like in the UK, I think a lot. My impression of we deal with like quite a lot of hunters and clients in the UK. A lot of them have got a very good base level of knowledge, because a lot of them have done our sort of qualifications, our training
Yeah.
qualifications, which provides a baseline. So I think there's quite a lot. Let's face it, Franco, there's a lot that don't know anything as well, and there's a few people sort of in between. So it's a good question, man. But I guess it's sort of like you have the few experts. It's like the pyramid, isn't it? You'll have
Yeah.
guys and girls up there that have forgotten more about deer than me and you will ever know. Do you know what I mean? They live and breathe it, man and boy.
Yeah.
I think probably in the UK, and I can only really speak about the UK, I would say there's a decent level of knowledge from the hunter. And I think that a lot of that's been driven by the qualifications we need to take. But it's like anything, man, isn't it?
Yeah.
Do those qualifications, it's academic knowledge.
Yeah.
Really, the real knowledge is out there. Is the amount of time you're on the ground, the
Yeah.
amount of encounters you are, the amount of mistakes that you make and you learn from. That's where the knowledge is, isn't it? Really.
Yes. Yeah.
So you got to get out there. So that's a long way of saying, yeah, I think the level of knowledge is pretty decent, but we all strive to get more, don't we? I mean, what's it like over in New Zealand, man? I mean, it's a different sort of kettle of fish over there, isn't it?
Oh, I have the impression that most of the people have a good knowledge about how to estimate, like, the class of an animal,
Uh-huh.
because they spend a lot of times the glassing. And then, but
For
at
sure.
the other side, I think that, the specific knowledge about, if we want to get more into, how to estimate the edge of an animal, uh, for example, deers, I think that's like probably a little problem, because here there's no education about,
Hmm.
if you want to go out there, you don't have any information, you don't have to follow a strict course that is going to explain you, a little bit of biology, a little bit about, the different issues you're going to get out there in terms of health and
Hmm.
etc. The proof is that I'm hunting with a bow, and I just apply on online and get my number, and that's it. I'm out there, and that, I think, is a nice thing. But at the same time, there's a lot of young people, they get exposed to the outdoors, and okay, it's a safe place if it doesn't have like some severe diseases, but it's, I don't think it's the right attitude, to just say, okay,
Yeah.
we are safe, we don't do anything about it. And then, like, most of the people that spend times like looking at the trophy, and then like not even properly click, and then say, I want to get more, and then, it's probably is not a fashionable thing, saying like open, the mouth of the deer and check about the teeth and see how
True.
old he was, because like you have a lot of people say, oh, there's a whole stack. Yeah, but how many actually open the Joe and see
Not
how
many,
old
man.
exactly he was. So that
Not.
we and then we got, we grew up about these kind of legends and legends, but the facts are like, are just really really few. And I think
Yeah, mate.
hunters have to do that
Absolutely.
as the
Uh,
possibility to touch the animal. So let's probably, develop that things a little bit more, spend more time, even not just the antlers and the ringhorns, but spend a little more time also to understand he was a living being that represent a biological resource. That's what I think hunters have to put that things in the mind and said that's a biological resource. It can represent a lot of things. A lot of data you can take from the field is there, and not just like I understand that when you get a mature animal, is a big effort, is a big success, but at the same time, that how many times is going to happen that thing, you know?
yeah, I agree, mate. I agree. It's funny, I guess. I guess maybe a generation or two ago, you might learn how to hunt and go out hunting with maybe your dad or your granddad, and they've been hunting with their granddads, and that sort of knowledge and expertise, how to accurately age an animal,
Yeah,
how to learn about it, um, that would have probably got passed on. You'd have probably learned that of somebody, but those sort of links aren't often there now. My dad doesn't hunt, um, and a lot of people are coming to into the sport whose family got no sort of heritage in that area. So you kind of lose that informal education, and that knowledge is
yeah,
gone.
yeah,
So
yeah,
I think you're right, man. It's probably more reason for us to have some sort of initial or basic sort of
yeah,
education, and then get out into the field and take your time to learn about the animal. Open it up, check its teeth, you know all the good stuff that you can be doing,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
and build that back up and understand exactly what you're saying, man. That it's not just a trophy for the wall. It's not just a backstrap for the fire. You know, it's a living being. It's a biological resource. It can
yeah,
teach you a lot about the land, about the animal, about yourself. You know, all good. It's important, I
yeah.
think, that we
Yeah,
get
it's
back to that.
important. And here in New Zealand, for example, the foundation, there are different foundation, Wopri Foundation, Sika Foundation, Tar Foundation. and they're doing a big job. And then they push the education, and then that's probably the way to go. Just like push the hunters to say like, okay, let's get into that a little bit more, and then collecting the jaw of the deer to estimate the age, to understand how is the trend. Because even just knowing about the age of the animal harvest in an area by hunters, it can give you an idea how the population is going.
Absolutely, man.
So
Yeah.
it's a data that's so easy to take, because like it's just written here on the jaw of the animal, and the hunter says it could do the job like easily. It's like
takes no time at all, right?
exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
I mean, you could even take that thing back with you if you want.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like it in the park. You don't, even if you weren't sure on the hill, whatever, it's dark, you're tired, whatever. Take that jaw, whack it in your pack.
Yeah.
Deal with it when you get home. You're cool.
Yeah.
Maybe take some advice off someone more experienced. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, definitely.
And you've got that data.
Nice.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, man. It's pretty cool. For sure.
Nice. So pretty happy we have this podcast. I am really, really, really so passionate about this kind of topics, and I think it's probably the future is there. We develop these kind of things, and then you guys, any kind of question that you want, we keep this a little bit tight. We can probably talk for hours and hours, but the concept is there. And if you guys want to send to Steve a message, you can find on Instagram. We're going to give you the link, and we're going to put even some links if people want to get a little bit more information about this tick-borne virus diseases. And so it's there. So guys, I hope you enjoyed. I was so happy to have Steve on board for this podcast. So who knows, probably we're going to meet in the future in Scotland. Who knows? So
get yourself over here, mate. We'll get you out hunting. It'll be a good crack for sure.
Nice. Thank you so much, Steve. It was
thanks
amazing.
For having me on, mate. It's wicked chatting to you.
So good.
Take it easy. See you, man.
See you. Cheers. Bye.
Bye.